I had a surgery coming up when I was living in Dubai, and every time I would go to speak to the doctor, to get information or whatever, we would always kind of end up in a casual conversation where he would ask me for like fitness advice, because he had known that I was kind of like a fitness YouTuber. That's what I told him. I'm more like a self-improvement YouTuber, but just to make it easy to understand, I told him fitness. So every now and then he'd ask me like, oh, Hamza, what should I eat to remove my stomach or whatever? I end up going into the surgery, and it's a surgery for varicocele, which is like a problem with your testicles. Basically, like the vein starts getting like all kind of up, and it can like lower testosterone, it can lower fertility. A lot of guys actually have this. If basically you grab your balls and you feel the veins, if there's more of like a clump of veins that feels almost like a bag of worms, that's a varicocele. And so I had that, and it's not good for you. So I went in for this routine surgery in this hospital in Dubai, and I wake up in ICU, the intensive care unit. They put me to sleep beforehand, and when I wake up, I've got all these nurses around me looking worried. I've got this oxygen mask, which is red. And it's red because it's my blood gushing out of my fucking mouth with every like cough. Like I'm just coughing like crazy, and there's so much blood coming out of like my mouth filling up this mask. I'm basically suffocating on my own blood because there's something wrong with my throat. Like we've had complications in the surgery. The worst pain is in my throat because of how dry it is. And it's like what I need more than anything right now is a sip of water. Like imagine having the driest throat possible, and some water would help. And when I'm kind of like trying to speak to the nurses and I just about whimper it enough, she doesn't want to take the mask off, but I keep on symbolizing I want to take it off. Water. She's like, we can't give it to you. You'll probably choke on it. Because my throat is so dry, I can only take the tiniest bits of like an inhale and exhale. Because if I breathe more than that, I start coughing like fucking crazy, and it's like my dry throat's getting fucking sandpapered. So I'm literally like breathing like this, like 4 hours. One of the nurses says to me, okay, she's gonna come back. She's gonna go tell the doctor that I've woken up. So he walks in like this 50-year-old Indian doctor, and he's not actually worried like all the nurses are. He's almost like laughing about it. He looks at me like kind of surprised, and he asks me, why won't you just breathe? I thought that was like such a retarded fucking question. I'm there with a fucking oxygen mask. Like, yeah, I wish I could, bro. Like, he asked me like, yeah, why won't you just breathe? This happens to unhealthy people. He symbolizes like a big stomach. This happens to like unhealthy people, old people, not you. You're an athlete. Why aren't you breathing? I can talk now, it's been a few hours, so I can take the mask off a little bit, and I say to him, I partied last night. I stayed up late. I drank alcohol. I smoked a cigar, which is probably what's making my throat so fucked up today. I stayed up till like 3 a.m. in this party. I got an Uber home. I texted the MILF that I had cold approached before I went to this party. She lived in the same building as me, so she came to my apartment. I banged her, and I was awake till about 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And my surgery was for 9 a.m. So the day before my surgery, I partied, I smoked, I whored, and I was sleep deprived. I slept like 2 hours. When I'm saying this to him, like with my whimpery little voice, and he's looking at me like a stupid little boy who's walked in with like muddy shoes. He's looking at me with like, a bit of a disappointment, as if I'm like some stupid little retard. He's like, come on. He's saying it like that. The shame that I felt was worse than the physical pain that I was feeling. All this time, I had believed to myself, and I had made him believe, and everyone believed, that I was like this athlete who really cared about his health. But when it mattered the most, like going into a surgery where they're gonna put you under general anesthetic, where, they force you to go to sleep, I needed prime health for that moment, and I didn't, because I just pursued degeneracy instead. I didn't keep up the good habits that I preach to myself and to even my own boys, and even to the doctor. He was asking me for fitness advice, and then I'm the one having complications because of like, a fucked up throat because of the cigar or whatever, because I don't usually smoke or anything. So once the doctor leaves, it's just me and my friend sat there for hours. We had planned that, you know, this surgery was going to take a couple of hours. I'd be able to leave, would go back to my place, would order pizza and like watch something whilst I'm like resting or whatever. But it gets to like 7 p.m. It's now dark outside and it's just kind of depressing. You know, the first few hours is kind of like weirdly kind of exhilarating because, you know, there's so much novel stimulus. But now it's just been hours and hours and hours where I'm kind of like still sickly. The oxygen in the blood is way better, but it's still happening. Like every maybe minute I'm still coughing a little bit and a tiny bit of blood is like getting into this oxygen mask going down and shit. It's a lot better, but it's still not good enough. And they've got like a little display which shows like my oxygenation percent, and it's like 79, 80%, and the nurse says it needs to be about like 95 minimum, and about 98, 99 is like healthy. 95 is like that minimum that they'll consider like letting me go. It gets to like 9 p.m. and it's like 85 is still far too low. Gets to 10 p.m. it starts going up. It's like, you know, 88, 89, 11. It gets to midnight. I mean, they had to move me to like a different room. I'm just got like this guy kind of sat outside, kind of making sure that everything's okay with my friends. Just, you know, he's there with his laptop. He's kind of bored as well, but he said he'd stay with me. And then this is when I'm starting to feel a lot better. It's still at like 80 something percent. It needs to be at 95 before they're like legally allowed to let me go, something like that, right? I'm feeling way better. Like I can walk now. I can, you know, I'm fine. I've got that sort of surgical patches or whatever, like over my pelvis, which is where they operated to like fix the vein thing. But I don't really need the oxygen mask. I can breathe. There's still like a little bit of blood every time I cough, but like tiny bits on the tissue paper now. So I call the guy over and I'm like, listen, it's midnight. I'm not sleeping here. I know that you've got like this like rule or whatever, but I'm a grown ass man. I'm going to be fine. I know I'm going to be fine. And I'm going to walk out of here now. I have to say it quite sternly because I had asked if I could leave like multiple times, but they're like, no. And I said, no, listen, it's like, I can breathe kind of fine. I know I'm still going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to be a lot worse if I stay here than if I just go back to my own place. So he kind of like, you know, he thinks about it for a second. He calls up a few people and then he says, okay, like we have to just brief you properly. Like if you do choke, call the police or, you know, call the ambulance number right away. Take this medication, take this thing, whatever. Gives it. We get the Uber ride back home. We order pizza in the Uber ride. Not even feeling it, bro. It's like fucking 1 a.m. I'm just like sleepy as fuck. My pelvis area starts hurting now because the anesthetics went off from that, so it starts killing. Get back to mine, eat like 2 slices of like fucking cold dead pizza and just fall asleep. But this time, I've got a plan. Wake up to my alarm clock. It's still dark outside. It's 5 a.m. I put on my gym clothes and I go over to the gym because I'm going to enter like this new season of my life where I actually take my fitness to the next level. Probably a pretty retarded thing to do, to go to the gym after you've just had a surgery on your pelvis, and I probably should have just rested instead. But it meant a lot to me to fucking hit the ground running with momentum. And I end up in the gym like 12 hours after the surgery. I'm there, you know, I'm taking it super easy, feeling it out, not doing anything that's like feeling like it's pulling the stitches or anything. But I actually start to feel way better. The good news of this whole story is before that surgery, my health was getting worse and worse every single week. I was feeling super anxious. I was disregarding like all the good habits. I was tracking my sleep with like an Aura ring, and that was making it so much worse just because it was like kind of stressing me out. But at this point, I decided to just instantly take action on everything that I needed. I started to eat cleaner. I lost some weight. I started to do way more cardio. I took off the fucking ring, which was tracking my sleep because it was just fucking up my mindset. And I just started to like live way more of this like healthy, natural life. Even though I probably should have rested more, that then led to an entire year where I was really focused on my health. I moved back to England instead of living in Dubai because I realized like in England I was a lot healthier. I grew my business a lot. My brain became really sharp. I got into a really strict, helpful diet. And then eventually, a year later, I'm here in Bali training kickboxing for an hour and a half, 2 hours per day. I'm gonna have a kickboxing fight in like probably about 5 months from now. My health is actually really good. My sleep is pretty good. My fitness is really good. I've done a really good bulk. I feel awesome. And all it took was that one doctor's words of shame, basically. So hopefully you don't need a surgery the same way that I did, but at least it was a good wake-up call for me. There is an action step that I've wrote down if you do want to do it. Firstly, the top link in the description will take you to my email newsletter. So if you want me to send you emails on like rejecting degeneracy and becoming a better man, you can go click on that. And the action step that I have is just consider quitting drinking or smoking if you haven't already. If you're doing those things kind of often, drinking or smoking, vaping or weed or whatever, like going to parties and all this shit, maybe consider quitting that stuff, honestly. There's a reason why every guy, like once they hit like a certain level of maturity, leaves that life behind, because there isn't like what's promised to us with hedonism and with degeneracy, with indulgence, it's not what you actually get. You get regrets, you get ill health, you get like degenerate, like lustful tendencies with the women in that environment. It's not actually good for you. What I think is like, if you're doing it maybe a maximum of like 1 to 2 times per year, it's like some special event or something, okay, I can understand that. But you should basically live your life as if you are a non-smoker and non-drinker. Like, does that make sense? You can basically act and call yourself a non-smoker, non-drinker, and on a very, very special occasion, you might break that, because it's like, special if you get invited to smoke a cigar with like some guy who, I don't know, you look up to or something, or to drink a whiskey with some guy you want to spend time with. Okay, I can understand that, you're not getting drunk, you're not partying like little degen or anything. I can understand that. So that's what I'd suggest. And I have seen online that there's a book which is really helpful for this. It's called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. And there's another one which is Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Drinking. So you might just want to go and read those books. Goodbye. Right.